Today on the show, we have Elyse, a dancer in her mid-30s who works in the education field. Having recently started ballet, we talk about her goal-setting prowess, overwhelm, and the reinforcement loop of ballet. Enjoy!
So Elyse, tell me about why you wanted to start ballet.
Yeah, that's a great first question. So I've always had sort of an intrigue or interest around ballet. Even when I was younger, I never did it when I was younger, but I always thought it was just so beautiful and something that I wanted to try. And when I moved to Denver later as an adult, I had done some research years and years ago about trying to take on this new hobby. And eventually I revisited that at different points and I found the studio. And I wanted to take ballet to do something that felt really beautiful and graceful and that could also be challenging and allow me to set some goals to meet along the way.
That's awesome. That sounds very much like what ballet is all about.
Yeah.
You've been dancing for almost a year now, is that right?
Yep, I think I joined last April. I joined the studio last April.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's time for your point evaluation coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Once we're right back open. Very exciting. I'm super excited to talk to you today, especially because I know that you, I know a little bit about that you work on measuring progress in the school system and work on, that whole concept. And ballet is so about progress, like you even just mentioned it in your little intro here.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to hear a little bit about your thoughts on progress, on goals, on all of that. So what kind of work, tell me a little bit about your work and what you do in general.
Yeah, so in general, when I'm not dancing at the studio, I work at Denver Public Schools, and I am the Associate Director of Strategy and Organizational Change Management. And as part of that role, one of the things that my team does is that we progress monitor our progress toward our strategies to make sure that we're serving our students in equitable and ways that help encourage their achievement and, decrease those opportunity gaps with different groups of students. So, it's something that's been important to me throughout my life is to think of ways to check in on progress. So that's one of the reasons why ballet has been really fun is there's like natural leveling that is included with a major level being the ability to dance on point. So that's been a fun thing to track throughout ballet, learning the different new things at the bar as well as in center, and then being able to look back and see that progress in place.
That's fascinating. I'm sure that's a very complex thing to track as far as all the different walks of life that people can be coming from and the very wide range, like you mentioned, the opportunity gap. That's just a huge range of things that could be going on there.
Yeah, a whole lot of stuff.
So one thing that's I don't know if it's different about ballet than what you're doing, but one thing that we've experienced is that people have different goals. And so helping everyone kind of work towards those goals, what are those goals, how do we work towards them is always very interesting for us to figure out. Do you have different goals? Do you work on different goals with your students with your progress, or is everyone sort of like marching towards the same thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's differentiated based on student goals. So one of the things that we focus on within Denver Public Schools is joyful, rigorous, and personalized learning, with that last part being the personalized component. So making sure that we're checking in with students about their own personal career goals and that we are differentiating our instruction and our programs and our services to ensure that students are going toward what they would like to do versus a one-size-fits-all component. And I can see within the ballet studio, we have lots of different options for people who are interested in different types of things, depending on what their own personal goals are.
Do you track your goals with ballet in similar ways that you work on at work, or do you keep these parts of your life separate?
Well, no, I do write little goals. So I like goal setting in general. So at the beginning of the year, I wrote some goals around progressing through different levels and goals about just like committing to the practice. So goals around doing ballet, making sure that I'm going at least once or twice a week. Goals around like progressing through the different levels. I even set like a little socialization goal where I was like, I'm going to do something with the studio that isn't ballet. So I'm either going to go to a performance or do the book club. So I set a goal around that. And then, of course, the major goal is always dancing on point, too. So that's been a goal for me, too.
That's fun. It's always fun to see those goals, and then once you reach them, what comes next, That's interesting.
Gotta set some new ones, I guess. Yeah.
So what I find interesting about your goals that you've set is that they seem very process oriented. So I didn't hear you say I want double pirouettes. I didn't hear you say I want to do it on you. Was that purposeful? Is that something you learned through your work?
Yeah, well, I think it could be a little bit about my nascent understanding of different components of ballet. So I'm certainly learning, and I feel like, I'm still a beginner. So it feels interesting to think about like what types of things I would like to do within the context of that. So actually, you're making me think that could be some fun things to think about now as specific things that I want to work toward, like a double pirouette. But that sounds really hard right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So I guess what keeps you coming back to ballet? Is it that you have these goals set? Do you have these goals set because you want to keep coming back? Like what keeps you excited about it?
Yeah, I think there is some aspect, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's some aspect of like a reinforcement loop that feels really good about ballet, where you are working toward either bigger or micro goals, and then you're able to achieve them in class, and then that feels really good. So that makes you want to continue to progress. So I think there's a natural component of ballet that keeps people wanting to go on, because there's just so much that you could master and like so many different things that you could decide that you want to do. So I think I've somehow fallen a little bit into that loop. And then in a less serious mode, I really like all the outfits. I know that's very silly, but I will call it out. That's a really fun aspect of getting the leotards and getting the shoes and the tights. And I think that feels really good to wear that to class when I'm feeling like I want to wear that to class. I like that part too.
Looking the part is so fun. I mean, we've been wearing tutus on our Tuesday Zoom classes just because it's Tuesday. Yeah. And, I mean, you got to look. Sometimes you want to just feel like a dancer.
Yeah. I completely agree.
The gear is most of the fun. So you're talking about all the wonderful things that can be accomplished. Some people find that overwhelming. Why do you find it overwhelming? Do you ever find it overwhelming, or is it like I'm so excited to accomplish these things and I don't really feel that?
Yeah, I think I've definitely had points of overwhelmingness when especially with some of my turns. There are some times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just never going to be able to do any of these turns. But then something magical happened and I'll suddenly feel really confident and I'll be able to do it. So I think there are those like pits and peaks, right? And we do get into those pits where we're feeling discouraged or something isn't quite working, or, we're really tired or had a bad day at work and that's influencing what we're doing. So I certainly fall into those areas of feeling a little discouraged or, maybe like overwhelmed by the amount that I need to do to be able to look at like the people on stage, which would be a very large stretch goal. But yeah, there's certainly, it's a very large discipline that takes a lot of time to master. So I have not been, absent from those feelings.
Did they ever get so intense that you wanted to quit, or are they always like that you can power through it?
I'm trying to think back if there was ever a time where I was like, oh, I think maybe there was one day where I was physically ill. I wasn't feeling well. And I remember feeling like in class, like, oh God, why am I even doing this? This is ridiculous. I'm, nearing 40 and I'm trying to learn something new and I'm terrible. Why am I even trying? Right. Like I had those self-doubt and like those feelings of, like why bother? But then I think that once I was feeling a little bit physically better and in like a happier mental state, I was able to kind of refocus those feelings and like, okay, this is great community, great activity. You do like it, and it's worthwhile to continue to try to learn new things.
It's amazing how just one little negativity stream can really unravel all of those thoughts.
It really can. It just throws it for, a little area that you're like, oh gosh, I didn't realize I had all these insecurities.
And they really just come right out at you. It's like, yeah, this is a lot. And then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, this is like way too much. Well, I'm glad you pushed through it. It's always good to overcome those kinds of feelings.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about goals and kind of where you see yourself. I heard you mention wanting to perform a little bit at some point. we've talked a little about micro goals. Do you have like big kind of long-term things that you'd love to be able to do one day?
I think it could be really nice to do something that feels meaningful and artistic in a performance where I could invite the people that I care about to see it. So when I'm not working or doing ballet, I'm also a writer. So there's something about me that is drawn to like performance and like exploration of different things. So I don't know what that would look like, but I think it could be neat, whether it's in one of the recitals or something, to just do something that really feels like monumental that then I can kind of share with some, people that might come see it. So that feels very conceptual and big though right now. So
that's exciting. It's fun to use ballet as a mode of expression, not just as the technical discipline aspect of it.
Right. Yeah, it kind of has that opportunity that you could do a little bit of both with that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you ever think about other styles of dance as well, like a more contemporary ballet flavor or anything along those lines, or is like classical ballet your one hit through and through?
I have been more enjoying the classical ballet right now. I haven't really thought much about different varieties of ballet, but I have been enjoying sort of exploring the more classical type.
I agree. As you think about these goals, any of your goals or any of your entire ballet journey, what do you find to be your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is like an adult with a job. Like truly, I think the biggest challenge is sometimes I'm so tired at the end of the day that there's always that wondering of like, oh, should I just go home? Right. Like, I think we all can feel really tired. So just, making sure that you're making the time for the things that you want to do. And luckily I've been really consistent with it throughout the last year, which I think has only helped me with strength and progressing. So that's been helpful. But there always is that temptation and challenge of like, oh gosh, I think I could just relax right now instead of diving into something else.
Totally, especially because it's very intense both physically and mentally. So it can be very challenging to pull it together. Even if you're having just a slightly negative day, it can be really hard to kind of like put yourself in that mindset to get in the studio and work hard and be focused.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I mean, I think everyone's going through that right now, being home with the COVID situation, is that everyone's under a certain amount of anxiety, right? No matter who you are and where you are, you have if you don't have some little anxiety, you're not living in the same world as the rest of us, right? Everyone has some base level of uncertainty.
Yeah, and COVID is like a magnifying glass for that right now.
Massive. And so it's very difficult to show up at the end of the day, right? You had a long day, it was a hard day, it was a stressful day, and then the end of the day comes. You really sometimes just would prefer to have that glass of wine.
Right, exactly. Just relax.
But I think we all know we feel better after we move.
Exactly. I never have regretted going to class, put it that way. I can't think of a single time that I haven't been like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
It's just getting yourself there and getting that motivation.
Right.
So I think the last question I have for you, unless you have anything else you want to add, is we have, a lot of dancers out there maybe listening who are either nervous to get in the studio or have trouble finding the motivation to get to class, are kind of anxious about the whole situation. Do you have anything that's helped you in the past that maybe you could share with them?
Yeah. So I did the overture program because I was a complete novice. So I didn't even do it when I was little. So I had like no knowledge at all. So I would say that program was especially designed for folks who maybe were in that same circumstance where I was feeling a little nervous, a little hesitant. And my instructor was Jackie, and she was just so great at making, all of our questions feel really welcome and addressing them in a way that decreased those nerves. And then around just like that motivation, I think that once I was in there dancing with the bar and looking in the mirror, that felt really great. So I kept going back, and it was just really fun. And it was fun to meet the, other ladies in the studio too, and just chit chat, because I think everybody's sort of coming from similar backgrounds.
Yeah, ballet does tend to attract people of similar mindsets and desires, right? I mean, if you find this type of thing enjoyable, you probably are somewhat detailed of a person and kind of have that kind of mindset going on.
Yeah, so if anybody was interested, I would just, maybe urge them to give it a shot and see if they like it. And there's, opportunities to go as deep as you want.
That's true. You can go as far as you want. You can go as not far as you want. If it's not for you, there's low risk. You just hop on out.
Yeah, exactly. I feel this. Yeah, I think that that's a good assessment of that.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add about your ballet journey that we maybe didn't cover today?
Well, I think I've just been really thankful for the studio. I also wanted to express gratitude for how you're handling the pandemic situation. I think it's been fun just to log in and see the instructors and do, the different things that you have available. So I really appreciate that. And it's been nice to have that level of connection and somewhat normal, behavior around doing things during a time of uncertainty. So I appreciate you all and I appreciate the instructors. So thank you so much. And thanks for always being so nice to me in general when I email with questions or stuff. It's been kind and I feel like I'm part of the studio.
I think you're definitely part of the studio. You always have awesome feedback and questions and ideas and thoughts, and it's always fun to have you around and have you in class, and it's fun to see everyone online and in the studio very soon as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Well, thanks, Elyse, so much for the time today. It was a lot of fun chatting.
Yeah, I hope to see you soon, either in person or in one of our virtual classes.
Thanks for listening today, dancers. For more adult ballet, you can follow our studio on Instagram and Facebook at Broche Ballet. You can follow me on Instagram at Julie the Ballerina, or check out our blog and YouTube channels for even more content. You can also dance with us in our online studio. To have your story featured on our podcast, email us at hello@brocheballet.com. Today's show was produced by Jackie Dohleman. I'm Julie Gill, and this was Broche Banter. Happy dancing!